What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Big Dog Bear. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. And we are back. Finally back. Finally back to the live shows, guys. It has been a too long of an off season. Guys, it has been way too long. Way too long. Appreciate all you guys sticking around during the off season, commenting on the videos. We are starting to get some videos out, getting things ramped back up. And man, it is good to be back. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got about a grand total of 16 days, 15 hours, 53 minutes, and 31 seconds until the kickoff of college football. Week 0 officially begins August 26th. So if you're ready for college football to get started, if you're not watching this video live, leave a comment down below. Tell me you're ready for college football. I'm ready for college football. Been ready for college football. Oh, it's so wonderful. Went outside today. It wasn't absolutely dreadfully hot. Kind of had that little tinge of fall in the air, and man, I could just feel it. It's just right over the horizon. It's so close. So ready for college football to be back. So have done a few things, have dressed things up a little bit around here. I know you guys can't tell, but I'm going to continue. You can't tell what's on the wall behind me because we have stepped things up a little bit. We got us a nice big green screen. We've got some new lights going on, camera fixed up, microphone working, check. And going to be working with some of my colleagues around the industry, going to be getting a hold of some new software, and that'll help for video editing aspect. So, yeah. All right, guys, let's get us a short, quick roll call here real quick. Got to give a shout out to Michael Porter, ECC. How you doing? Welcome back. Jamie, what's up? Zephyroth, good to see you again. One of our resident members who supports us throughout the off season. Cool Breeze, man, really appreciate you being around, man. You sure do a lot to help the show fall in the air. It feels like it if you go outside right now, at least at my house. So I'm looking forward to some cool weather, some pumpkins, some leaves turning orange, and some jerseys turning red. So lots to get into tonight. We did reach out to Keith. I know you guys are familiar with him. He's going to try and join the show here at some point. So hopefully we can get him on. We'll open a show up here in a little while, see if anybody wants to come on and have a little chit chat about the upcoming season. So there. Oh, hold on real quick. Let me go and check something here real quick. What did I see? Yeah, there we go. All right. So what's up, Brad Pitt? Appreciate the background. This is a picture. This is actually a real picture that was taken of UGA's one of UGA's lounges. And I did some color correction and some saturation effects to make it look a little nicer. Michael Porter definitely on the right track when he says thumbs up, please. He is correct. Want to be cool? Be like Mike. Everybody should be like Mike. And for those of you who don't know, Mike is the GOAT. So we'll go with that. Yeah, weather down here is horrible. Ready for the change. Me too, man. I it's not that I don't like hot weather, but I don't really like hot weather. Like I'll tolerate it, but I'm not the world's biggest fan of hot weather. So, all right, let's see here. First and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about the upcoming season preseason rankings. So the preseason rankings for the coaches have come out. I've looked at it. I want to share it with you guys, have you guys share it with me, and kind of go over what these guys are thinking. So, yeah, number 23 for the win, as always. So the preseason rankings came out, and to be honest with you, sometimes this means a little something, sometimes it doesn't mean much. Sometimes I wonder who's making these rankings and why, because my goodness, I feel like they got some stuff wrong here. I just boy howdy. How did I invade this slot tonight? Hey, I'm a habitual slot raider and invader. I'll just throw that out there for you. I was the original OG of Wednesday nights, I guess you'll say, and so I'm gonna reclaim my title as the OG Wednesday night slots. Hit them on the slot machine, sir. Dogs on top. All right, guys. So let's take a look at this list real quick. Let's start at the bottom here, work our way up. So Texas A&M coming in at 25. Why? I don't know. And quite frankly, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Uh, you know, you see a lot of the same faces here, but there are some faces here that I have some questions about. Like Notre Dame at 13. You lost, was it your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, and your quarterback, but they still got you at 13. So does that mean all those things aren't that important or they are that important? I'm confused. So we'll start at the 15 here and work our way up. I think TCU is probably a little bit overranked. They lost Max Duggan, so I don't expect him to be as dynamic as they was last year. Guy was an outstanding quarterback, but he was just completely outclassed, and Georgia was able to show that. So Let's Go Brandon says, I haven't caught one of these in a minute. Hope all is well. All is good. It is good. And the reason you haven't caught one is because I haven't done one. So there's that. Coach's poll doesn't mean nothing. It sometimes it's close to nothing, but got to give us something to talk about. Got to give us something to talk about. So you're looking at Texas Christian, TCU, holding down the 16th spot. Oregon at 15. I could. I mean, I guess I can see that, but I can't see putting them behind Notre Dame. I think Bo Nix is going to be back. I'll have to double check on that. If Bo Nix is back, I'd probably push him up around above Notre Dame at least. Texas at 12. I'm okay with this. They play. I might even push them a little bit higher. Yeah, I made a video on that. Some of these stuff kind of gets moved around, so not a big deal on that. Let's see what else we got here. Washington 11. All right. Tennessee at 10. This is pretty much spot on. I think they got a good quarterback that just left that school. I don't know what they've got coming in, but I mean, the guy's not bad at quarterback position. He should be okay at the number 10 spot. They're probably going to look better than they are because they're kind of running that gimmicky offense. So we'll see what happens when they play some teams of quality. See how it goes. Clemson at number 9. I'm fine with this. Florida State at 8. Yeah, that's okay too. Penn State, I might bump them up a little bit. Southern Cal, I don't really see anything wrong. If you want to switch these two around, I'm good with that. Then you got Louisiana State, LSU, coming in at number 5. Guys, a lot of people I don't feel like are giving LSU the credit and respect they deserve. Keep in mind that 3 of the teams above them are replacing their quarterback. Georgia loses Stetson Bennett. Ohio State loses Bryce Young. Ohio State loses C.J. Stroud, and Alabama loses Bryce Young. LSU retains their quarterback, and they've got a pretty stout defense. I know they got some issues with the offensive line, but I don't really feel like that's going to be that big of an issue. We're going to find out here what we've got in Louisiana State. I think week 1 they actually play against Florida State. I'm picking Louisiana State to win this game. So I'm picking LSU all the way. I think Brian Kelly's got a pretty good thing going on down there. I think he's got some buy-in. I'm really concerned that FSU maybe in the offseason has overhyped themselves. And I think stepping in and playing a major SEC opponent that won the West last year with pretty much the same team they have, offensively speaking, minus the lines, that might be more than FSU is really prepared to deal with. I think if LSU gets a couple of good punches in early, it might send FSU reeling. So I don't think that you're going to be able to create that same kind of dynamic against LSU. I think if you punch LSU in the face, I think they're just going to grind you out on depth. They've got a ton of depth there at LSU. I think they're going to be fine. So, oh yeah, I'll get to the comments in just a minute, guys, and don't you worry. We'll get to the comments here in just a minute. So hang tight with that. James says LSU overrated, in my opinion. Maybe so, but I'm just telling you. They got some individuals on that team that are absolute showstoppers. And if those guys show up and they have a good game or two, hey, it could really get interesting in a hurry. All right, so Ohio State loses its quarterback in CJ Stroud. They've probably got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the entire country. This is an absolutely elite team. They recruit at an elite level, especially at the receiving position. Any quarterback you have back there, if he can throw to 65% completion percentage, they're going to be just fine. They've got plenty of time to kind of get warmed up in the season. I think it's like week 4, maybe 6, where they play Notre Dame. I think I could be wrong about that. Probably am wrong about that. We'll see what happens with that. Alabama, they probably have more 5 stars and 4 stars than anybody else in the country, but they lose Bryce Young. They fire both the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. They lose a Heisman winning quarterback. And this is after a year where both the defense struggled and the offense struggled at times. They lost 2 games last year, which normally would be great for any team, but I think there was 4 other games where it was within 1 score, and there was 2 games where it come down to the last play of the game. Not what you're used to seeing out of Alabama. I think a number 3 spot is a little too credible for these guys. A lot of respect for Alabama, Nick Saban, but I feel like this particular year, um, this could be the worst year they have in a couple of decades. If they don't tighten the ship, if they don't get it righted here, and I'll be honest with you, first year offensive coordinator, first year defensive coordinator, going out and getting a quarterback out of the transfer portal after the spring game, it doesn't give him a lot of time to get any type of cohesion with his team. And I think it's was it week 2? Is it week 3? What is it where they play? Let me see here real quick. I'm going to pull this up just to make sure I got all my ducks in a row. They played Texas week 2. That's what it was. That's what I was thinking of. Texas, Texas could hurt them. Texas could hurt them. What's up, Texas Rocks? Appreciate you guys jumping on. Let's see. Let's go. Brandon said, "You think we'll go 15-0 again? What are your honest, non-biased thoughts?" I think we go 14-1. Lose the SEC to LSU. They return more than anyone in the SEC. I think they return a good bit, but Georgia probably returns the most. I think Georgia's got 13 guys, 13 or 15. I can't remember. It's one of the 2 guys returning, and that's including the offense and the defense. Georgia's absolutely loaded. We have an All-American at every position group on our team, and that being the case, it's going to be difficult to come up with a flaw in Georgia's game. So, me personally, do I think Georgia can go 15-0? Yes, I think they can go 15-0. I did not think they could go 15-0 last year, but they did that. And I feel like this year's team has the potential to be even better. This defense could certainly be as good as the 19 defense, whichever one it was. It was 20 defense. It was 19. It's 19. That was like 10.5 points a game. And we thought that was a generational defense. This one could be better. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of talent on this field. Carson Beck picks up 2 quality, high-flying wide receivers in Ra Thomas from brain just shut off, and Dominic Lovett from Missouri, which was their number 1 receiver. So Carson Beck's going to have plenty to throw to. You throw in Arian Smith into the mix, you throw in Lad McConkey, you throw in Brock Bowers, Georgia's Georgia's running back room right now is a little bit beat up, but yeah, 2021 defense. Thanks, Jamie. Carson Beck started this season. Absolutely no doubt that he's going to be the starter. If you watched him play in the spring game, you would understand. But we're not talking about Georgia just yet. We skipped over Michigan. Michigan returns, I think, 13 starters. They retain their starting quarterback. They got a ton of talent coming back. They're going to have a pretty stout defense. Their defense, I think, was second in the division behind Penn State. And they really should have played Georgia last year in the national championship game. They were beating TCU at everything except the scoreboard. And those are really attributed to some kind of disastrous turnovers that created momentum for TCU, and TCU was able to get back in. And I really think it was more of Michigan beating itself than it was TCU beating Michigan. So that's what I think. And Beck, we trust. UM defense is underrated. I agree. What's up, Matty Sims? Michigan literally couldn't score the last within the 2 yard line twice. Yep, that's true. That's true. But I mean, it was the mistakes that they made that really hurt them. Would have been more of a game also. Well, that wouldn't have been hard to do because that was a um what do you call it? That was the largest victory in history if they just would have kept it a little closer. Yeah. So they just could have kept it a little closer. It would have been good. Michigan going for 3 straight versus Ohio State. Yeah. It's gonna be Big Ten's gonna be interesting. Big Ten's gonna be interesting. And just for those of you who out there, Clemson and FSU is not leaving the ACC anytime soon. There's just too much money involved. You spend a few minutes looking at it. There's just I don't even see a way they could borrow enough money to buy their way out of that situation. They're stuck for a while, guys. All right. Ole Miss at UGA gonna be lit. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we're gonna give Keith. He said he's gonna jump on here in just a minute. Said he's feeling a little bit under the weather, but how about all that Colorado hype going on? I'm not buying the hype. I'm not buying the hype. This, sir, is a fact. Texas rocks. I 100% believe Texas is going to leave it all on the field. All on the field. What's going on, Keith? Go ahead and throw that link out there for you, sir. This year, guys, we're going to be doing a little more with the channel or as much as we can. Going to have some giveaways this year for you guys from some personalized stuff that I'm going to make myself. Texas getting boat race this year, not by Alabama. Texas left it all on the field last year. Wouldn't expect anything less this time around. I completely agree. I completely agree. So let's do this. I'm trying to find something. Let me see. Oh no, hang tight, guys. Hang tight. I got something for you here. All right. Let's pull that off. No, come on. We're getting close. Hang on, guys. Okay. What's up, Eric Wallace? What's up, Seed Vision? What's going on, Mr. Keith?
Hey, how's it going, man?
There we go. So I'm gonna back this up for you guys right here. If I can make this a little bigger. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So here we go. So right there is there. Shin's down. There's another angle that shows it, but the shin is down here. This is a safety. Ball is in his hand. This leg's down. Um, there is no reason why this should not have been called a safety. Like I lost my mind when I saw this play because Texas absolutely got robbed on one here. And I just don't for the life of me understand how they can get that call so wrong. sounds terrible. Yeah. Well, Keith, welcome back. Glad to have you back on. It's been a little while. Too long.
Hey, how's it
Microphone's
going,
on.
man? Yeah,
There we go.
sorry, I was trying to rearrange some windows here, but hey, man, appreciate you having me back, man.
Oh man, glad to have it on. We got to get this thing started back up at some point, right?
Yes, sir.
So, the coaches poll came out. Doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but I wanted to see if you felt like going over Georgia's schedule real quick. Just kind of get your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Let's pull. Trying to find a nice image here that everybody can see. It's not a good one, but trying to find a good one. That's good enough. I think maybe. No, that's terrible too.
Yeah, this you trying to find the image of Georgia's schedule?
Yeah, trying to find a good one.
Yeah.
Jamie, pull up an image. Oh wait, I'm not Joe Rogan.
Right. Get there one day. We'll get there one day.
Yeah, one day. I might be older than Joe Rogan, but before I get there, but I'll get there. All right, I guess we'll have to ride with this one. We'll just go with this. So UGA's first game is not televised. I don't think that's correct, sir. I'm not willing to make that assessment just yet. Yeah, all these say listen. It says SEC ESPN network right here, sir. I don't know if you can see that or not. But right there, UT Martin. So if it's on the SEC network, you can get that through YouTube TV. You can watch that anywhere in the world. But if you're saying it's not advertised, it's not televised on like ABC, NBC, or CBS, then yes, you are correct. You are correct. So we actually get football pretty soon. It's a little over 2 weeks away for the very first games. So you really want to know when the college football kickoff. It's going to be on a Saturday, August 26th. And there's actually some pretty decent games out there. Notre Dame's going to play Navy, so you get to see Notre Dame play. USC versus San Jose State. It's probably the biggest teams that you're going to have that week 0. And then you get Thursday, you get some more teams. Missouri actually plays South Dakota. Florida plays Utah for a Thursday game at 8 p.m., a night game. So that'll be worth watching. Then Friday, you get Miami, Georgia Tech. Miami's playing Miami of Ohio, which I don't think I've ever seen that anywhere. Georgia Tech versus Louisville. So that week 0 is going to have some good games. And then we actually get into Saturday football with, I think, every team in the world playing that Saturday. So. But back to Georgia's schedule. So what do you think about our schedule this year, Keith?
I mean, just like everybody else that's talking about it. I mean, it's a fairly weak schedule from from what we've seen the past few years. I mean, not starting off with somebody like Clemson or whatever. And, I know they were supposed to play Oklahoma this year, so, it wasn't supposed to be this way, but,
right.
But I mean, at the same time, we still got to play everybody in the East. And so it ain't our fault that they're kind of down. So,
well, I heard somebody bring up a really good point. And that point is that unless you're Tennessee, pretty much every other team in the East would have the same strength of schedule as Georgia if we weren't on their schedule.
Right. I mean, yeah, it is. Exactly. I mean, I think it's, what is it? Yeah, I mean, every other team in the East has got a brutal schedule. I mean, with us on it.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
yeah.
So, but I mean, it's like Kirby said, though, everybody talking about the schedule, come play it, I mean,
right.
how many teams in the country do you think run the table with our schedule? probably the same ones that everybody would think is gonna be there at the end. There's probably only four or five, maybe five teams in the country that would have the schedule, and everybody would say it's a cupcake schedule, and would run the table on it. So I don't know. There is something to that. Complain about the schedule, say it's weak, well, come play it. How many teams do you think run the table with that schedule?
I would say almost none.
Yeah, less than 5.
Yeah. So according to one of the college football experts at Dogs Daily, 6 of the 16 hardest schedules in college football are UGA opponents, and 4 of those coming in the top 6. So basically, it's very difficult for Georgia to have a strong strength of schedule when Georgia is as strong as they are, because we're one of the teams that makes the schedules hard. That, like, we're part of the measuring stick.
Yeah, we don't have the luxury of being on our own schedule.
Correct.
So yeah,
which in a way we kind of do every practice. So Jamie is right though. He says they said Bama had a cupcake schedule for the past 10 years. Yeah, they say that every year.
Well, I mean, the reality is that the first 2 games, should be some good warm up. Get Carson Beck some more meaningful snaps. In South Carolina, I know everybody's kind of looking past South Carolina, but you just never know. I mean, when was the last time we saw them? They destroyed Clemson. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
you never know when they're gonna just explode and do something crazy. So, I mean, you can't look past South Carolina. I know a lot of Dogs fans are, but historically speaking, they can come out of nowhere and play us tough. And
well, let me throw.
Honestly, I'm more afraid about that game than I am going to Neyland. I mean, because it's early in the year. Carson, I know we haven't named the starting quarterback yet, but it's pretty sure it's going to be Carson, right? So,
right.
He may or may not have his legs under him by the time South Carolina rolls around. I hope he does. But, this is going to be the first real meaningful competition with him as the starting quarterback, in a pressure situation. At least it's going to be at home, so that's cool. But yeah, that's when we're going to find out what we got, So
yeah, and I think that's going to be a fun game. I mean, it's fortunately this game I feel like is played at Sanford Stadium. It's the first SEC opponent of the season, so Georgia fans are going to show up. It's an afternoon game, so you'll get a pretty decent crowd. I mean, you're not going to get a crazy night crowd. But it's gonna be fun to see what happens there. But I think UGA is going to come out on top of that game. There's something I do want to bring up though for those out there who say Georgia doesn't have the toughest schedule. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change screens for a second. So we're going to stop screen here. We're going to remove this. Stop screen. Present, and then I'm going to share screen. Let's see, where's it? There we go. Okay. So here I'm going to go back to, let's just go back to 20. We'll go back to 2020, right? So Auburn in 2020 had 17 4-stars. Florida has 1 5-star, 17 4-stars. Tennessee has 13 4-stars. South Carolina has 8 and 1 5-star. Kentucky has 7. So, and then, we got Georgia Tech's got a few. So, all right, that's pretty much running out the top 25. Let's go to 2021. Here we are at Florida with 15 4-stars and 1 5-star. Auburn at 7. Tennessee at 6. We don't play Arkansas. Missouri at 5. And that pretty much rounds out top 25 there. Now let's go to 22. Let's see here. Kentucky, 12 4-stars. Missouri, 1 5-star, 8 4-stars. Tennessee at 8. Florida at 8. Auburn at 11. South Carolina at 7. Arkansas at 7. And again, that's the top 25. And then let's go to 2023. Right. So Tennessee at 13, 1 5-star. Florida at 18, 4 stars. South Carolina, 11 4 stars, 1 5-star. Auburn at 10 4 stars. And that pretty much rounds out the top 25. So even though they may tell you that this is a weak strength of schedule, you have to take into consideration that there's a tremendous amount of talent on these SEC teams. I probably just named well over 100 4-star players, and 5 or 6 5-star players on these teams. And that's not counting transfers. That's just what was recruited. So, you look at South Carolina and you go, it's South Carolina. Yeah, it is South Carolina, but they still probably have 30 or 44 stars on that team overall. Florida's probably got 44 stars. Kentucky's probably got 30. Auburn's definitely got 30 and some 5 stars. So it's not like these teams are just, Georgia Southern University. These have some quality, highly ranked football players on these teams, and we play them. Yeah. So I really feel like Georgia doesn't necessarily get the credit for having to play those teams, because if you look at the other teams out there that recruit like this, you're looking at Texas, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Miami, Southern Cal, Oregon, Clemson, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan. You wouldn't say any of those teams are trash. You just wouldn't. Florida State, you wouldn't say that team's trash. You might say that about TCU, but they still got to a national championship game.
Yeah, I mean, that's going back to what I was saying earlier. I mean, the fact that it's our schedule is the reason that it's saying it's cupcake schedule, because it is compared to past years, and then our expectations have been elevated as well. So, Georgia's going to go, if we would have had this schedule in 2021, nobody would have said it was a cupcake schedule. It would have just been, I mean, they might would have said it, but it wouldn't have been the talk of college football about how easy Georgia's schedule is like it is now, So the fact that we've won back-to-back national championships, now everybody's got, now everybody's starting the excuse wagon, early.
Yeah.
You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, run the table on this, it's hard to run the table if you're playing, all crappy teams. You still got to go out there and play the game. The game's not played on paper. So, but that being said, I mean, Georgia's going to be a double-digit favorite in every game he goes into this year. So,
there's very, very small likelihood of anyone beating Georgia. I think the biggest one that I found was Tennessee. They had like a 22% chance to beat Georgia.
Yeah,
and I think that number's definitely going to change. I get that it's at Neyland Stadium, but I think they're only Georgia's favored by 8 points away at Neyland. So on a neutral field, that's an 11-point game. That's a double-digit win. I feel like Georgia could easily get double digits on Tennessee right here.
That line will be double digits by the time the game gets here, because Tennessee will have a couple of losses by then.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they will too. So, and I'm sure that matchup predictor ranking will drop from 22% to 10% or whatever it is. But yeah. Schedule. I want to pull something up for what is the world? Well, I just messed up. Hang on. Pulling up a schedule here from a few years back. So let's jump back to 2016. Okay. And I'm going to share the screen on this one too. So let's close this out. Present, share, and here we go. What's going on, Tennille? Catch you later, Jamie. So this is UGA's 2020 schedule. It may be a little bit hard to see. Let's see if I can blow it up. There we go. It's a little better. So I'll read it to you guys.
2020 or 2016?
2016. This is our 2016 schedule.
Gotcha. Okay.
If you were to put Georgia on this schedule right now, right now, you would say that's an easy schedule because realistically, Tennessee being at 11, Ole Miss being at 23, okay. Florida at 14, okay. Auburn at 9, maybe. But look, you got Nichols, same old Missouri, Vanderbilt, normal run of the gauntlet, Louisiana Raging Cajuns, Georgia Tech. This was a season we took 5 losses, man. This was a season where our strength of schedule was not in the top 10 in the country. It wasn't even close. But Georgia still toted 5 L's. So that the reasons Georgia's strength of schedule has changed so wildly is because Georgia's had some success here in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's kind of a nothing burger if you ask me when you talk about the schedule. I mean, it is what it is, but at the same time, we scheduled Oklahoma for this year,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen. And that game was scheduled before Oklahoma was. I mean, it was scheduled when they were good. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about the way these contracts are made. They're usually made and pushed out so far, and they're made when the teams are good, and then by the time they play each other, it may or may not be that way, or they both may be way better than they were when they kind of signed the deal. It's kind of it's kind of part of it, So, I mean, it's all a moot point. I mean, if Georgia, I mean, Georgia's probably going to win the East. I think they would have been favorite to win the East no matter what their schedule would have been. And, barring any craziness, as long as they win the SEC, they're in the playoffs. I mean, I don't really see a big. I mean, we just got to play. We got to play the schedules put in front of us, and it's an SEC schedule that includes all the East teams plus Auburn every year.
Yep.
So I mean,
and an additional West team.
Yeah, and another. That's what I'm saying. It's guaranteed to that, and an additional West team that rotates out. So I mean, that happens every year. So there's definitely arguments to be made about these cupcake teams, and I'm definitely on the side of scheduling tougher opponents and not having these type of games, because I'm gonna tell you, I mean, I'm as aggravated as anybody that I look forward to college football, and the first 2 weeks of my Georgia schedule is against these type of teams. It's I'm not happy about that myself. So
well, and let's do this just so I want to share something else here. So here is Alabama Crimson Tide's schedule this coming up year, right? If you take Texas out of this equation, this is still a decent schedule. You put Texas in there, it's a little bit better. But this isn't like, the most incredibly difficult team. If you look at, go to,
I mean, LSU's ascendance that's going on right now. Everybody's high on LSU. I mean, with that being in Texas's schedule, I mean, that kind of inflates it a little bit because, I think people are a little higher on LSU than they are Tennessee. So,
well, the only 2 difficult games Michigan has is Penn State and then Ohio State at the end of the season. Everything else is an absolute cakewalk. I don't know if any of these teams that they play prior to Penn State will even have a winning record. That schedule is that bad. Ohio State's not much better.
I mean, this is the argument. This is the argument that people have every year for that conference, right? I mean,
yeah. So they play. The only improvement to their schedule versus what you just saw is Notre Dame. That's it. I mean, it's so soft. I mean, basically the entire college football rankings are going to go through the Big Ten and the SEC this year. Is it just me, or does this guy look like O.J. Simpson?
O.J. Simpson and Steve Harvey mixed together.
Yeah, O.J. Harvey. Betty Sim says, I think UGA's reputation recently for having a soft schedule primarily comes from the fact that all of the perceived challenging games they had last year were at home and their road games were easy. That may be true.
Yeah, I mean, they rotate every year, so I mean, can't blame that either. I mean, really,
Yep.
just the
Well,
way
the thing,
it happens, you know.
and I would just point out that if you look at the amount of talent that's in the SEC that Georgia's going to play against this year versus the amount of talent at the other schools that Michigan's going to play this year, it's not even comparable. You know, Rutgers is not getting 10 or 12 4-stars every year in recruiting. They're not. Boston College isn't either. So,
I mean, I don't know. I can't really, outside of maybe somebody might want to make an argument on the Tennessee game last year. I can't really think of a game that we benefited from playing at home. I mean, our closest games were away games.
yeah.
I mean, we were at Kentucky, won by 10. We were at Missouri, won by 4.
Yeah. We've got let's go ahead and roll through the schedule here real quick. Sorry, I meant to get that knocked out, but I got to rambling. Not quite back in the groove yet. You know, it's first live of the year. You got UAB. You know, this is going to be in Athens.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cupcake game, not a big deal. I'm not overly concerned about Auburn, but it's Auburn. You know, I want to beat those guys into submission and leave them there. Nothing to worry about here either. Same thing with Kentucky. Kentucky's probably be the most physical football team we see for the vast majority of the year in the regular season. Vanderbilt, again, not worried about Vanderbilt. Florida's Florida. I think Billy Napier's doing a pretty good job of getting that program turned around, but they still have a ton of work to do. What's up, Pastor Dave? Haven't seen you in a hot minute, sir. Let's see here. Missouri, they're playing in Athens this year. They lose their number one wide receiver, and he's playing for Georgia. So, like in dodgeball, it's a 2-for-1 switcheroo. Then Ole Miss. Ole Miss is in Athens. I expect this place to be loud. Second week in November. I think Georgia's going to be, you know, sitting on what's this like 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 wins. This will be the 10th win of the season for Georgia. Probably by this point in the season, do not be surprised if Georgia has the East locked up. Because Tennessee could very well have 2 losses here. Even if Georgia beats Ole Miss, even if Georgia loses to Tennessee, they would still lock up the East. And then, of course, we're going to go down and trash Georgia Tech, you know, like, you know, it's what we're supposed to do. That's what's going to happen. And then we're going to be playing at home again in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's just.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you really, I mean, the feeling I get from this schedule, and the way the East is kind of has been down, and then what's happened to Florida, and I think Tennessee is fixing to have a sophomore slump as well after Hooker's gone, and you know I think everybody in the country has kind of figured their little scheming offense out. I mean, there's a very good potential for Georgia to run this like 2013 FSU and just, you know, embarrass everybody on the schedule.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also possible that with the way the schedules are played in the Big Ten, that they could cycle themselves out. I mean, it's very possible that neither Ohio State nor Michigan gets in. Ohio State could lose to Penn State. That would give it 1 loss. Michigan could lose to Penn State. That would give it 1 loss. Ohio could then lose to Michigan. And then if they somehow make it into the Big Ten championship game, play Michigan and beat them, every team there would have 2 losses except Penn State.
Yeah, I think
somewhere else.
I think one of those 2 teams is in though for sure.
I do think one of those teams are in, but I also think that there's no definites there just because of the way their schedule plays out.
Yeah.
But I think Georgia could, like I said, Georgia could very well easily have the East locked up by this point. And
I mean, I think, the only real question mark, I mean, the Georgia, you have a question mark with the quarterback play, right? Because that's kind of the only thing that we haven't really, I don't know. It's just not sitting comfortable, right? Every other position group has kind of got a leader there, and and some big game experience, and we don't really at quarterback, but we didn't when Stetson came in and ran the offense, and he didn't even get in 2021. He didn't even get a chance to work with the ones coming into the season, and we still won the national championship with a tougher schedule. So,
yeah,
I try not to worry too much. I know Carson's probably going to do fine. Whoever Kirby decides to start at quarterback is going to do fine. And again, we run an offense that doesn't really rely on the quarterback being, a playmaker or a Heisman candidate to go out there and win it by himself. We have lots of people all over the field, but as long as Carson goes out there and doesn't cough the ball up and sit back there and take sacks, if he can just get the ball to the playmakers, I mean,
well, he's definitely got some benefits to going in his direction. Number one, he can see over the offensive line.
yeah,
That's a minute never really could. And that's not a knock on Stetson. That's the truth. Those guys are huge, and Carson Beck is 6'2", 6'3". He's just he's a good bit taller than Stetson was, so he's going to be able to see more. And whenever we, what we saw in the spring game, yes, I get it's a spring game, but I also know that you can see some flashes of brilliance and talent there.
Oh yeah, he was throwing dimes at spring game for sure.
I mean, absolutely incredible types of passes, and it wasn't like a Bryce Young where Bryce Young was a quarterback who could it was a zip 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 pass every time. What we saw out of Carson Beck in the spring game was there were times where he would throw a ball and it would have just the perfect amount of touch on it. He would throw a fast check down pass or a fast screen across the middle. Or, I mean, and there was times whenever he would zip a ball 15, 20 yards downfield on a frozen rope. And then there were times where he would lob one for, like Arian Smith in stride. He was literally making every throw on the field, and he was making them look very, very flawless. I personally believe that if Kirby Smart will put you in as the backup quarterback in the national championship game, you're probably going to be the guy. But we'll see what happens. Zephyroth says, I guess he means what are your thoughts on Mike Bobo being back? You want to go first on that one there, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I was never a Bobo hater. I mean, he kind of was one of the first people to bring a prolific offense to UGA when he was offensive coordinator. So, I mean, I think we averaged mid-30s to high 30s whenever he was
39.2.
Yeah, whenever he was offensive coordinator. So, I mean, I mean, I like Todd Monken as well. I mean, I think they're both really good. I think Monken got, he deserved to get promoted up and go to the NFL, and but I mean, we got playmakers out there, and as long as we can get the balls to those guys, it'll be fine. I don't think they're. I know you said something about play calling. I do remember under Bobo a lot of screen passes and things like that weren't as effective as they should be. We still scored points, but it was frustrating sometimes to watch. So, I mean, I get I guess the thought that the play calling might not be as good under Monken, but again, we have some pretty stellar athletes out there, and so
yeah,
and I think Bobo's come a long ways too. He's had some head coaching experience since then, so I think he's kind of got that out of his system, and he can kind of sit back and focus on moving the ball and not have all these aspirations and just get it done, and he's gonna. I mean, he had a lot of talent on those Georgia teams that he was offensive coordinator back in the day.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's ever coached the amount of talent that he's about to be able to wield. So
yeah. So there's a couple of things I want to throw out there about Bobo. Bobo coached Aaron Murray, Matt Stafford, and David Green He also had wide receiver AJ Green, running back Todd Gurley, no Sean Marino. I mean,
Yeah, he's
you want to
coached
talk about some
some.
elite talent. I mean, he definitely had elite talent, not as much as we have now for sure. But there's some pretty interesting stats that if you guys take a few minutes and go look them up. 4 out of the top 5 seasons for average yards per game in the history of the Georgia Bulldogs came under Bobo, including a school record mark of 484 yards in 2012. So he had 92 games where he was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Scoring 30 plus points 57 times, 40 points 29 times, and more than 50 points 13 times.
Cool Breeze, I agree with you. And that was the thing that turned me on Rick. I said it all way back then, and I'll say it now, that if you can't win with some of the guys that Rick had in the early 2010s, he just wasn't going to win it.
Yep.
You can't do it with those guys. You're not going to do it.
Well, and we talked, me and you've had extensive conversations on this, both on air and off air, where he was a guy who had all the talent in the world, but would get out coached in big games. If you looked at what his record was in big games, that's where he failed. And you can have all the talent in the world, but if you got another coach and he can out coach you, you're never going to get it. To me, the game that made me turn my back on Mark Richt was whenever we played Alabama in Athens at home. We were favored. Like, it was the first time anybody had been favored against Alabama it was some ridiculous amount of like 30 games or something. And see you later, Cool Breeze. Oh yeah, happy anniversary, brother. And we got absolutely embarrassed. It was like, I want to say it was like 41-10 or something, just absolutely embarrassing. And I was like, you had an incredible team, had all the pieces at home, hometown crowd overflowing, and just got absolutely embarrassed. And I was just like, Mark Richt just is not going to get it done. And I think there was one year right along that same stretch there where he, because of his poor clock management, he allowed Georgia Tech to get the ball back and go kick a field goal and win the game. So, yeah, not a big fan of what Mark Richt did, but I'm a big fan of Mike Bobo. He had quality output, and it was with teams that had less talent than what we have now. Not that they weren't talented, but more talented than they were then. And also, it's not like he walked into a brand new event. Like he's been here for a while. He's been at Georgia before, and he coached here last year.
Yeah.
So it's not like he just walked in off the street and tried to figure it out all over again. No, he was coaching and working with Todd Monken the whole time. So,
and he's going to have a pocket passer.
Oh yeah,
quarterback,
an absolutely elite quarterback.
Yeah, so I don't know. I love what Mark Richt did for Georgia. He kind of resurrected the program and got us to where 10 or 11 wins a year wasn't enough. That's a cool thing to be. Yep. Where you've gotten used to being nationally relevant, but he just couldn't get it over the top, and so that was my thoughts on Rick. I appreciate for what he did. He just wasn't the dude to take it over the mountain. He got it right to the very top, and just couldn't push it over the top.
Man, you can say it. You can say it. He was Frodo. But you had to have Samwise Gamgee to get over the top, man.
Yeah. So
didn't quite have enough there.
Well, I mean, you look, it's what I've said all along too about coaching in college versus coaching in NFL. I think Rick is an NFL style coach. He is cerebral. He doesn't show much emotion. He gets out there and tries to get the job done. But, with college, I mean, you look at you listen to some of the audio that's come out of Kirby's locker rooms and some of the clips that we've seen of him motivating these kids. You would have never seen Rick do anything like
Oh
that.
no.
So, I mean,
You
especially in an age now where, all these teams have incredible talent. And so you got to figure out how do you motivate kids that kind of feel entitled to 10 or 11 wins. It's kind of what Saban's been doing in Alabama. It's like how do you get out there and motivate kids that think they're playing for a program? They've been brought into a program that should win the national championship. And if they don't, it's a disappointment. How do you encourage them to go out there and play well against South Carolina on a Saturday afternoon
well,
and
I
not
think
just
that
expect to win? And you got to do it by like, making them feel like they want to run through a brick wall for you.
yeah.
And that's what he does. He talks about how we're being disrespected by everybody last year,
Yep.
which we weren't really. But that's the thing.
We were the moment that they gave Tennessee that number 1 spot and Georgia didn't lose. They no.
Oh yeah, but I mean
they were totally disrespected then.
Yeah, they were talking about that beforehand, though. Like but that's the thing. You cultivate a narrative that you want your guys to respond to, and then you push them.
Yeah.
And he does a great job with that. They're already starting it this year.
Yeah.
Everything that you can get to motivate these guys into thinking that people are doubting them and that they can't do what last year's team did because they're not good enough. And, if you can coach that into them and make them not think that, like last year, the Missouri game is given to you. You got to go out there and win it. I mean, I hope he shows that tape to every team that he has coming up. Like, this is what happens when you go out there and think that you've won it before you ever snap the ball.
Kent State gave us a run for a while too.
That's what I'm saying. And so it's tough. And that's what I think Mark Richt didn't have. He didn't have the ability to go out there and motivate these guys with passion like that. You know? So.
Well, Kirby's smart. I mean, if you get an opportunity, if you guys haven't done this yet, and you get an opportunity to sit down and listen to some of the stuff he says, and I swear some of that stuff is leaked on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
He says, he says things like, "We will not be hunted. We are the hunters." And he says things like, "We will eat off the floor." I love that. I absolutely love that. When you get somebody who says, "We will eat off of the floor," that is a pride check, determination in your mind and mindset that you will do whatever it takes to push yourself to win.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then
he has a mentality. He has that killer instinct that Mark Richt didn't have. Mark Richt never would have hung 65 points on TCU. Kirby Smart was trying to hang 65 points. It's not like 65 points happened. That was never on the board as far as something that just happened. He went out there and he goes, "This is you guys' moment to show the entire world you are the absolute elite best team ever.
Yeah.
Go break them. Yeah. Go make them never want to step on a football field again." Mark Richt would never say those things.
Yeah, he I don't know if you saw that documentary that they did on the SEC network, but they were showing like the pregame and halftime like talk for the national championship game. And because we and you were texting during the game, like, what's going on? Like, why are we still throwing bombs when we're up by 40? And that was his speech, was going into the game and at halftime, even when the game was already out of reach, was he just kept saying, "Leave no doubt. Leave no doubt."
And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
He asked the team if they were finished at halftime. I think that whenever you have that level of talent, first of all, you can take guys with average talent and you can get them hyped up and believing in themselves, and they can beat the Alabamas. They can beat the Georgias if they're not in the right mindset. You can beat them. So he knows that. And he wants Georgia to go out and just decimate everybody. He wants the other team to give up before they ever step on the field. And if they dare step on the field, he wants to obliterate them.
Yeah. It was.
Well,
I mean, you think back. I mean, if you want to find how Mark Richt tries to motivate the team, you just go back. What was the 2007 Florida Gators game when he made them all rush to the end zone and celebrate? So it was like he kind of he kind of offloaded that responsibility for hyping up the team to the leaders and captains on the team, and basically just told them if they don't get a penalty on their first touchdown, then they were going to have to run. And he told the captains to figure out how to do it. You know what I mean? So he offloaded that instead of doing it himself, instead of motivating the team himself, and he gave it to the captains to do. And that's an example of Mark Richt style hyping up rather than, and all you got to do is search on the internet for Kirby halftime speeches. It's probably not appropriate to play here, but yeah,
he definitely
little different.
Feisty. He's feisty.
Yeah,
He's not afraid to mix it up a little bit, and it's really refreshing to see somebody who he doesn't just want to win. He wants to destroy. He wants to leave a legacy by fire and steel and tempered to precision. He wants to leave something that is lasting. And I don't know if that's, and I guess part of it is that he's from Georgia. He came from Bainbridge, Georgia. He grew up in Georgia. He went to University of Georgia. He played football at Georgia, and then he had to go. And I'm not saying it's like they forced him against his will, but then he has to go over to Alabama and help them win championships. And then he decides, you know what? Now it's time to bring it home to Georgia, and he turns it up to 11 and gets after it. And I would not be surprised. It would not surprise me if within the next 2, maybe even 3 years, that Nick Saban retires.
Yeah,
because I'll be honest with you, if you're Nick Saban and you're beating everybody you play every time you play them, and then the second time you play somebody, they beat you, and then you see them go on to have two perfect regular seasons and then an undefeated season, and you've got to start dealing with NIL. I mean, what is this guy's your predecessor, and you can see that he's doing everything that he used to do, but he's doing it at Georgia instead of Alabama.
Yeah, I think Saban is probably super proud of him, because I think Saban sees a little bit of himself in what Kirby's doing. So I know I would if I was Saban. You've accomplished. You've been at the top. You've kind of solidified yourself as one of, if not the greatest college coach of all time. So what's the next thing to do? It's to see one of the people that see your protege, I guess, go on and do what you did. It's kind of like, if somebody else is going to come up and dominate college football, why not be somebody that learned under me? So
yeah, and and I'm sure him and Kirby talk all the time. I know they're friends, and I'm sure he's said it multiple times. He's super proud of Kirby, and he should be.
Yeah,
but I also think that there was a good bit of Nick Saban's success that came from Kirby Smart. And for those people that say Saban built Kirby Smart would not have played for Nick Saban if he wasn't good to start. Would not have coached for Nick Saban if he wasn't good to start with. Granted, he probably learned some stuff while he was there, no doubt. But Nick Saban wouldn't have kept that guy around if he was Derek Mason from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I think Saban knew what he had in Kirby. I think glad we got him.
Smart. Kirby Smart, Scott Cochran, and Nick Saban were the three horsemen that built that dynasty over there. And then once Kirby left and Scott Cochran came with him, the Alabama football team has slowly been in decline. So this year is really going to be a marker as to whether or not that Nick Saban is going to be able to right the ship. I feel like this is a make or break season for Nick Saban. This is a season they could go 8-4. You guys can get mad if you want to, but if you look at how they played last year with a better football team, it wasn't what we're used to out of an Alabama team, and this year may be worse. So I think he may at some point just have enough and just want to enjoy his retirement. He's got more money than my grandkids could spend. So yeah, Kirby was to Saban like Stallion was to Bear. There may be some truth to that. Well, guys, we've got on here about 10 after 10, so we've been on for about an hour. Do me a favor, guys, leave a comment down below after the video. Come back, let me know what your thoughts of what the preseason rankings were, how you guys think we're doing so far. We're going to continue to get this season up and running soon. We'll be back with the usual on Wednesday nights. We appreciate you guys so much for being here. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys real soon. Have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.